guys, welcome to Clockwork Noodles for the first episode on my channel of breaking down the Ancient Magus Bride Season 2, episode number 1. I've never broken it down on the channel before, but I am a huge fan and I have seen the movies. Very excited to break this down for the first time with you guys on the channel. So hello if you're returning and you have been on the channel a little while and you know me. Big welcome to you. And if you are new, checking me out for the first time, hello and welcome again. Thank you for stopping by to the Noodle Bowl. I hope you like what you see. If you do make sure you give us a little subscribe so you can keep up with the season as a whole, as I'll be breaking down all of the episodes. And I really hope that you guys are excited as I am for this new season. Very excited to see it come back. I didn't really think we would be getting it anytime soon. I do want to pick out a lot more of the atmospheric stuff this breakdown, so we're going to try things a little bit differently. It's more up my street, the things I really do like to break down in this particular anime. Let's talk about the OP first. In general, I do think I need a few more goes of the OP to get it into my head. Hasn't stuck with me immediately, but it could be a slow grow where it sticks in my brain and I really enjoy it. But I do like the lighting. There's a lot of use of contrasting lighting of oranges and blues. A lot of really nice transitions when it comes to the use of magic. Nice camera angles too. There's a moment where Chisei is running in a circle, which is quite nice. It leads back to Elias and Sylphie. I think Sylphie's in sequence 2. Lots of nice colours like reds, lots of symbology with the red flowers being there. In general, I think it's a nice solid OP. I think I do need to watch it a few more times. I like the fact that we go quite quickly into addressing the fact that Chisei needs to face the problem of self-sacrifice. We have seen her up until this point willing to sacrifice herself, either because she feels like it gives her the right to live. She wants to do it for herself, so she's very good at sacrificing herself for the people around her, which is nice, but it's also a very destructive behaviour. It's nice to see that we're going to be trying to address that more by sending her up to this school to allow her to learn and hopefully put her in a better position. It does allow for a lot more lore as well. Going to this school, we get to learn a bit more about the world that we're in. Up until this point, season 1 has pretty much felt very stuck to the cottage, where we've learned a little bit about the outside world, but it does feel a bit more controlled when it comes to learning about that world in particular. Hopefully as well it will lead to some cures for those curses that she has picked up. Nice lighting, I really like it. It's nice and soft when we're having this talk with Elias about whether we should go, whether we shouldn't. A very nice sequence in general. I do have to question a very insane Dutch angle at one point when they're sitting at an angle. Generally the use of a Dutch angle is to show you that a sequence is slightly off kilter, something isn't quite right. The examination sequence where we see the caterpillar design, I like the caterpillar design. I think it is very unusual. I very like it a lot. Straight up the Ancient Magus Bride street when it comes to unusual designs. The animation sequence though is a nice little recap to remind you exactly all the dangers that Chisei has faced, put herself into, and again just showing you the plot thus far, because sometimes, especially if you've had a few years gap and it's been a while since you've watched anything, a recap is nice. I watched the movie maybe a few months ago. That's fresh in my brain, but the movie itself wasn't quite the follow-on. It's more like an OVA, so it doesn't push the plot too much, but it is nice to check it out if you haven't seen it already. Do make sure you do. A nice sequence too of seeing Elias stating that he's quite scared of upsetting Chisei, which is a nice little touch. His thought process, a bit of where he's standing right now, because again he got caught last time he was in the shadows. He is a character I do find very hard to read, but he is also my favourite design for the show. I would love to make that skull and put some LEDs inside it. I think it would be quite nice. I do have a habit of making big headdresses and masks. If you are finding me for the first time, I do make costumes. I do often make quite big unwieldy pieces. So Edi's skull is right up there for me. Now, something that this show does very, very well is eyes. And I think it is one of those strongest points when it comes to this show. There are moments often that it will just give you and grant you a beautiful moment of details. The level of details within Chisei's eyes at this moment is absolutely gorgeous. You can see the reflection. She's moving, she's talking as she goes. So they haven't neglected to put the reflection in or anything. It's very, very nice. It's a very intimate sequence. And they often say that the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and this is the moment where Chisei says, I'm seeing memories that don't belong to me. They belong obviously to the owner of the previous eye. It's a very nice moment for us to literally look into her eyes, get that lowdown of the fact that she's been seeing over 1,000 years of memories, which must be something insane to process within your brain. It's credits to me. I do love details when I see them, and this moment is a very nice little sequence because you are getting a lot of info, but it's being done in a very clever way. This makes sense. She's a doctor, she's examining her, so we're going to get that lowdown, we're going to get that recap. It's a recap that makes sense. If you have been on a channel, you know that I'm not keen on info dumps where you just info dump for the sake of info dumping. This isn't info dumping. This is actually for the sake of the plot. This makes sense within the plot and in the realms. It would make sense that Chisei would feel comfortable to talk about all of these things to a professional, a doctor, somebody who I would talk about, and this is what I've been going through. Chibi Elias is still my favourite. I love how cute he is in this style because, again, it's very contrasty. You've got that skull design suddenly turned very cute. Always quite the nice contrast there. It shows us as well that we've got some new quirks, as I want to call them, for Chisei, and she's super strong. Now, it's very useful and handy for her to suddenly have extra powers like this because it should help her in the long run to defend herself, but it's going to be interesting to see what the consequences of having these powers are. What are the drawbacks? Because generally, if you get a power, they often come at the cost of something, so it'll be interesting to see what that is. And of course, who is spying. It does look like the girl in the ED though, the girl at the end who collapses into her arms. Going to find out what her deal is, who she is, why is she spying, why she was there in the first place. She seems to also to have the power to disappear because she kind of disappeared completely and then she re-emerged around the corner. So that will be interesting to learn about her powers because everybody at this school has magical powers, which is quite cool. So it makes sense that this anime is airing in the same season as Mashle because Mashle is technically muscles and magic, whilst this feels like an anime version of Hogwarts. Got 2 shows this season that are dealing with magical schools, which I really like. The animation in the eyes really is just first class. I can't get over at times how gorgeous these eyes really are. Absolutely gorgeous within these cat eyes. Cat eyes are gorgeous in general. I have a cat. My cat's name is Lulu. She has blue eyes too. I can really appreciate a beautiful blue cat eye. They are gorgeous, but I love cats. So this sequence as well, absolutely love it. And I love that the cats are the matrons because cats see everything. And I love this because I do feel like my cat is watching 24/7, whatever I'm up to. Whenever I move, she wants to know what I'm doing. And I think it's perfect. They are also scary because they don't miss a beat. They do threaten her quite quickly. If you're up to any mischief, you are not going to like it. You're not in for a good time. You're going to get scratched. You're going to get bitten and you're going to hate it. I like it. I do think it's an awesome new twist on picking a house. Most schools have houses or classes that they divide into. This is a nice one to see that you have to pick the cat which is closest to your values. And I think she couldn't have picked a better cat. She's always had this freedom in her heart that we've seen throughout season 1. And it's a very beautiful cat. This cat does remind me closest to my cat. She's long-haired and she's a ragdoll. It's probably the closest representation of my cat, and I also love the bow, but the cat is absolutely gorgeous. But if I did pick my cat up like this, I'd probably be slapped in the face and get cried. She cries a lot if you pick her up. She is a rescue, if you want to know a bit about my cat. She's a rescue I picked up at the age of 1. She was being used to breed. She's a baby herself, so she has been spayed now, and she lives the life of absolute cat luxury within my house. Absolutely love this shot. This shot is one of those money shots for me. It's multifaceted glass. It's gorgeous. It's showing you the many faces of Chisei as she ponders her choices. I really felt the atmosphere it was trying to give me. It felt awkward. It felt a bit uncomfortable. You could see yourself staring back at yourself. I would be absolutely the same. However, I would choose to knock. If you wake them up with a knock, at least they know you're there. Now, if you wake them up by suddenly just appearing, hovering over them in a room, they're going to freak out, and that's really scary. I would pick knocking. It's the lesser of 2 evils, but you can really sense the growing anxiety. She starts to overthink. She starts to think back to the bullying. And it's such a nice sequence, the way that it slowly builds and builds and builds. Obviously, it builds up to a very bad introduction of slapping someone in the face of a door. But it is such a nicely choreographed sequence, which I really like. The reflection in door handles as well. That is details. The level of details right there. They didn't have to add her face into the doorknob, but they did. And they chose to do it. And it really does pull it off quite nicely. This is such a good moment for me. I think this might be one of my favourite almost choreographed moments where it was just building. I felt awkward and I started to feel really anxious for her. I was like, oh, what are we going to do? Because she's sleeping and then she's up and then you're like, oh, okay. It's a bad intro, but it could have been a lot worse. And again, she was pretty forgiving with it. She's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to go back to bed now. Do appreciate that because, again, I'm pretty antisocial, so I would probably be quite the same. But yeah, I would say knocking is the better thing here because at least you're signaling your arrival. She doesn't get up. You can be like, okay, she's deeply asleep. So I tried. At least I tried. I need to go in there and change. So at the end of the day, something has got to give. The names, though, when it comes to this anime, they're so English. The Webster. It's also quite magical because of webs and I think spiders. Quite a cool character. I like her design. The long hair is quite there and she's very serious. I think she's also quite antisocial, which again is very similar to Becca. I'd like to get to know her a little bit more and see what her deal is. Can't wait to get to introduce her. She is in the ED. It does seem that she's gonna, with the silver hair girl, form a trio. They're gonna be our trio for this series. They're gonna be their best friends, hopefully, and we get to know them. She's probably gonna counterbalance other two, which would be quite nice. It is the nice building of atmosphere through silence. It's very nice. It's awkward. It's anxiety building. I like it. There's no music. Chisei just looks around the room, tries to get herself dressed and be as quiet as she can. Compiled really, really nicely. It follows off of the back of the other choreographed sections. This might be my strongest part of today's episode. Really like it. I felt anxious. I felt nervous. The phone goes off and you're like, oh, quickly grab the phone. Don't want to wake this person up. Don't want to make an even worse situation bad. Right at the end, we see Chisei walking into the girl who was eavesdropping. Well, something doesn't look quite right here. She doesn't look quite good. Maybe she was trying to go to the doctor's and she found that it was too late. Chisei was there. She didn't want to butt in. And then obviously she got freaked out because Chisei noticed she was there and that made her nervous. So it's more likely that she's feeling ill. She wanted to go to the doctor, but then she was too nervous to approach and then she's gone off. I hope that is the case. I don't really feel bad, negative vibes from her. I just feel really bad for her because she does collapse. Hopefully the girl is okay. Now the ED is basically just still images of the new characters. I love the new characters though. They look really good. The artwork is gorgeous. It is just basically rolling credits. There's not too much to discuss when it comes to the ED, but I like it and I'm very excited. There are some nice POV segments as well within the ED where we have Chisei looking up around her surroundings. There's a lot of nice nature inside the ED because again, it is a show that does deal with nature quite a bit. You'll see a lot more English folklore out in the country if you ever visit the UK. In the smaller towns, people will have their own little folklore floating around. You are more likely to catch a folklore or two if you travel out a bit further and go and see those stories. So I like the inclusion of the nature because it's very nice and the girls are quite chill and they all walk away. Chisei seems to be woken up by our three, so suggesting that they're going to be her new friends. Very nice sequence. I really enjoyed it. I thought the first episode was very strong. It got the atmosphere down quite quickly. It didn't waste any time telling you this is us. We're now at school. Elias is here. We know where he's going to be. He's going to be teaching as a guest. There's a lot going on. I can't wait to see where we go. Haven't really heard much about the second season. I've not had any spoilers given to me or anything. Generally very excited to see where the second season goes, and it is a show that I really do enjoy because it's set in the UK and it means I can give you guys information. If I see stuff or I work out where we are, I can often tell you guys if it's accurate to stuff that I have heard. In general, the show is very strong. There's been some very nice folklore brought up into the story already, so I really can't wait to see where we hover this season, to see what is brought up. And I'm very excited, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys stay around for the ride as we break this season down. I will see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Look after yourselves and take care. Bye-bye, guys.